While we have you here, there was other big breaking news overnight, and that is that apparently the administration, our government, has reached plea deals with the 9/11 masterminds. And I know that you have a lot of familiarity with that. Would love to get your take on that this morning as we deal with this other breaking news.
Well, I don't understand why it is that we would reach a deal with the guy who is responsible for thousands of Americans being dead. And I don't understand why we would take the death penalty off of the table, which is, I understand, the deal here. I mean, my gosh, if anybody deserves the death penalty, it's this guy. Again, this administration, let's just put it this way, they won't arrest anybody who are out there defacing our statues, tearing down American flags, burning them right there in public, right in front of the Capitol, and raising the Hamas flag. They turn around and make a deal with the 9/11 terrorist. I mean, what is going on in this country? I just think that this administration is clearly not keeping us safe, not serious about protecting Americans overseas, again, whether it's Russia or Haiti or anywhere else. And now they're making these deals with terrorists. And I look forward to getting all the details of this plea deal, but it doesn't sound like a good one to me.
Fellow Americans, Nez Nation, it appears that the Biden administration, Joseph Biden, our president, or, I mean, Kamala, depending on who you think is actually running the country right now, God knows where Biden's been, have just announced that they've made a plea deal with the architects of the worst attack on American soil in American history, killing nearly 3,000 Americans in the process. The announcement was a bitter pill to swallow for victims' families who have anxiously awaited the conclusion of the case for nearly 24 years, many of whom felt death was the only appropriate punishment for the perpetrators of the heinous attacks. A spokesperson for the Office of Military Commissions, the OMC, which is prosecuting the case, confirmed it had entered into pretrial agreements with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the accused principal architect of the al-Qaeda attacks. And the two alleged co-conspirators, Walid Mohammed Salih Mubarak bin Atash, wow, that's a long name, and Mustafa Ahmed Adam al-Haswawi, all of whom have been held at the U.S. military prison on the coast of Cuba since 2003. In exchange for removal of death penalty as possible punishment, these three accused have agreed to plead guilty to all of the charged offenses, including the murder of 2,976 people listed in the charge sheet, said a letter signed by Rear Admiral Aaron C. Rue, chief prosecutor for the OMC, and he sent it to victims' families Wednesday. News that the death penalty was no longer on the table for the suspects whose alleged actions killed nearly 3,000 in the worst attack on U.S. soil in American history came as a gut punch to victims' families. I mean, quite understandably so. Quote, "I'm very disappointed. We waited patiently for a long time. I wanted the death penalty. The government has failed us," said Danielle Dialara, whose twin brother John was one of 23 NYPD cops killed the day of the attacks. Retired police officer Jim Smith, husband of Moira Smith, the only female New York Police Department police officer who died on September 11th, said he felt like he had been, quote, kicked in the balls, end quote. They committed the worst crime in the history of our country. They should receive the highest penalty. The guilty plea hearings to charges including murder and conspiracy could take place as early as next week, with the sentencing hearings expected sometime next summer, according to the letter. The OMC letter revealed that the terror suspects have also agreed to respond to any questions the family members of the victims have. I mean, they'll do anything to get out of death. Quote, regarding their roles and reasons for conducting the September 11th attacks. Family members were told they were allowed to submit questions which would be funneled to the men through their defense attorneys and answered within 90 days. It was not immediately known where the men will be incarcerated following their pleas. Terry Strada, who's the national chair of 9/11 Families United, said because they wanted it to end, it has ended. But for me personally, I wanted a trial, I wanted them found guilty, and I wanted him to be punished accordingly. Describing the terms of the deal, Strada said, quote, "We'll take off the death penalty. You say you're guilty and you get to live in Gitmo Country Club until you die. I've been there," she added. "It's a lot cushier than it would be in a max prison." The defendants stand accused of providing training, financial support, and other assistance to the 19 terrorists who hijacked passenger jets and crashed them into the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania on September 11th, 2001. The three accused who've accepted a plea deal, along with Ali Abdul Aziz Ali and Ramzi bin al-Shib, were initially jointly arraigned on June 5th, 2008, then again on May 5th, 2012, the Department of Defense said in a statement. The OMC said it first entered into plea deal negotiations with the suspect's defense counsel in March of 2022. Mohammed, known to the FBI as KSM, is said to have proposed the idea for the attacks to Osama bin Laden in 1996. The Pakistani-born terrorist is accused of playing a key role in the planning, including training some of the hijackers in Pakistan and Afghanistan. He was captured in Pakistan in March 2003 and interrogated at secret CIA prisons, including being waterboarded 183 times, which attorneys argue constitute torture and should render any testimony he gave inadmissible. Police Benevolent Association President Patrick Hendry, who has been inundated with calls from officers' families after they learned of the plea, said it was heartbreaking and infuriating. Their loved one's sacrifice is being disrespected, and they are being victimized all over again. These individuals masterminded an attack in our nation that not only claimed 2,977 lives that day, but thousands more in the years since. Their crime merits the ultimate punishment. There should be no plea and absolutely no leniency. Uniformed Firefighters Association President Andrew Ansborough told the Post that the FDNY's thousands of firefighters feel betrayed and disgusted. 343 New York City firefighters died on that day, and hundreds have died since then. We're still losing 3 firefighters a month through the effects of 9/11 Ground Zero. We feel betrayed and disgusted that they will not face the ultimate justice of death, that these terrorists were offered a plea deal which will allow them to live into old age with contact with their families. Not only that, they also get taxpayer food, shelter, and health insurance for the rest of their lives. So this is not a video. I'm not creating this video to just report this. Really, this channel is all about showing you guys the truth, the objective truth of what's out there and what the woke mafia media won't share with you. I'm not here to advocate the death penalty. I never want anybody to die. I don't like violence. I'm opposed to violence. I'm opposed to inflicting violence, obviously. This is not about that at all. What this real video is about, and by the way, I do believe they deserve the harshest punishment. I mean, this is the biggest crime ever committed on American soil. So I do believe and advocate that they absolutely deserve the harshest punishment possible. And this plea deal is just another representation of this administration and how they, I agree with Senator Hawley, as I always, probably pretty much almost always do. They don't care about Americans. They don't care about our safety. They don't care about putting America first. They are soft and they are so lenient on criminals. This is a pervasive cancer. It is indicative of how they treat criminals, how they prosecute crime, how they treat our fellow boys and girls in blue, our firefighters, our first responders, the people putting their lives on the line, on the front line. You know, with defund the police being one of the number one platforms for a presumptive nominee, Kamala, it's indicative of their attitude, their methodology, how they treat, you know, the people who want to do Americans harm on a day-to-day basis. And with all intents and purposes, they genuinely do not care. They don't want to prosecute these people. You look at what's happening in cities across America. You look at, a recent example that comes to mind, New York City, where these illegal migrants can beat up cops and then get let go scot-free. DA Alvin Do Nothing Bragg lets them go. And then what does he do? He charges Trump for a completely victimless, legal, unbelievably invisible crime of 34 counts of felonies. And so this is another example of the misdirection, the misguided energy and resources of a criminal justice system that is supposed to be erected to protect actual American citizens. And this administration is doing everything but. I mean, you can't even walk down. I dare you to walk down a city street in Los Angeles, Portland, San Francisco, forget about it, Chicago, New York. I mean, the list goes on and on. all of these cities that are being run by like-minded, radical, woke mafia, leftist leaders across our country, it's very, very stark. You can see it in real technicolor what's happening here. And so, I mean, it's baffling to me as an American citizen, and I feel deep, deep remorse for these families, these poor people who've been waiting. I mean, imagine losing your loved one in the greatest tragedy in American history, and then it being actually deemed the greatest tragedy, the greatest crime ever committed on American soil by universally across the globe, not just America, but everywhere. And then the very government who deems it so does nothing to right the wrong. This is why what's going to happen in November is so consequential, because cackling fraud Kamala is going to do the exact same thing. She's going to perpetuate the same soft on crime, zero prosecution, defund the police mentality that is a direct result of what just happened to these poor 9/11 families who received zero justice. But I throw this off to you. I want to hear from you, Nez Nation. What are your thoughts on this? I call this a national travesty. I don't know how you can justify something like this. They've killed 3,000 Americans. They have absolutely traumatized and affected families. That there's irreparable harm there and trauma that will never go away. And this is how you respond. It makes no sense to me, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you made it this far, also in the pinned comment is our free newsletter. Sign up for that, become a Nez Nation Insider. That way you never miss out on all the latest breaking, updated news that woke fake news mafia media won't share with you right to your inbox. Do that in the pinned comment, show notes, and description. Check out these videos coming up right now. You're going to love these videos right here. Subscribe and follow. And as always, may God bless you, and may God bless America. I'll see you soon.